Hey everyone, I'm Monica Clavijo, and welcome back to the Bear Experiment podcast. Today we're diving into a topic that so many of us can relate to: finding love later in life, navigating relationships after divorce, and the transformative journey of self growth. Our guest today is Michael Nasche, and someone whose story and wisdom will inspire you. Michael is a Texas born veteran who served in the Army for over 20 years. After leaving the military, he transitioned into becoming an inner work coach, where he's specializing in neural divergence and a business coach for entrepreneurs with ADHD. But beyond his impressive career, Michael has walked a deeply personal path. Married at just the age of 20 years old, he spent 12 years in a relationship that shaped much of his early adulthood. Now in his 40s and single, he's here to share his honest experiences navigating the modern dating world and the challenges and joys of seeking love later in life. We'll explore how the dating game changes with age, the role of personal baggage, and whether finding love again is truly possible after divorce. But this conversation goes much deeper than just dating. It's about spiritual growth, healing from the past, and embracing the present. Michael will also share how he's now helping single women navigate the dating world through his new coaching program, offering insights from a male's perspective. And because it is the holiday season, and this is a time when loneliness can hit particularly hard, we'll talk about overcoming those feelings and finding strength during this time of the year. This is an episode full of heart, wisdom, and real talk. So grab a cup of coffee, get cozy, and join us on this powerful conversation. Let's dive in. And thanks again for watching. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and hitting the notification button so that you never miss an amazing episode of Triumph and Resilience. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your support. Hi there.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear. How about me?
Same. You sound great. Thank you for taking time on your Sunday to hop on this little
Yeah,
old podcast.
glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so
Glad to be
much.
here.
Yeah. So, welcome to the Bear Experiment podcast. I am your host, Monica Clavijo, and today I am sitting with Michael. Say your last name because I'm going to butcher it.
Just Nash. It's got a funny spelling, easy to
Well,
say. Just Nash.
German. I was like even listening to the audio, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking it's pretty basic, right? Like Nash. Okay, good. So I was on the
So
right
it's
path.
spelt like Portia, which is German, but
Right.
that's Portia. But my family's Italian, so I don't know if it got butchered at Ellis Island or what. But if you ever see anybody with that same spelling, that's my family. It's that unique.
It's yeah, very rare. I also have a very unique last name, Clavijo. Not a lot of people I've come across with the spelling of my last name either. So thanks again for taking the time to speak with me. I really, I'd love the idea that I can get a midlife. I mean, if listen, we're right around the same age. Midlife, right? It's not bad to say that, or is it? I don't know. Um, but I've been single for several years now. I too was in a marriage for a long time, 10 years. I have a beautiful daughter. And I am noticing, and in speaking with my female friends, how challenging it is to really find somebody later in life, Like we come with with so I don't know, if is it are we coming with baggage? Is it that we haven't healed? Like I it's just and it seems to me to be a common thread with every girl that I speak with, and guys too for the most part. But I really wanted to get a male, a successful male's perspective on this, like so let's get into you a little bit. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your background? I know that you're in Texas, but where you grew up and what led you to join the military, the Army. You were in for over 20 years. So thank you for your service, sir. I have a lot of respect for veterans and law enforcement and first responders. I think you guys are doing the Lord's work. So thank you for that. And how that has shaped your experience to where you are today in life.
Oh man, there's so much there to unpack. I wish we like narrowed it down, asked me to be more specific. I'm like, because I could go so many places with that. Yeah. So the military, I got my love of country and patriotism during Desert Storm. I was a boy. I was like, fourth, fifth grade during Desert Storm, and my dad's younger brother, my uncle Paul, who I'm named after my uncle Michael and my uncle Paul. Both of them served in the military, but my uncle Paul I was much closer to, and when he served in Desert Storm, I remember being, 9, 10 years old, watching the news, thinking I was going to see my uncle Paul, who was a private in the army. I thought I was going to see him on the news, but all I saw was like, Norman Schwarzkopf. But it was that season of life where I saw the patriotism in the town that I lived in at the time, with the yellow ribbons tied around the tree, and
Yeah.
just that I just love of country is it was really born during that time for me. And I knew at 10 years old I wanted to serve in the army. My other uncle, my uncle Michael, served in both the Army and the Air Force. And then my grandfather, actually, I have a picture of him right on my desk. My grandfather served in the Army as he was a Huey pilot in Vietnam.
Nice.
And he served enlisted during Korea and then went to OCS and became a helicopter pilot. And so I had a good family history that served in the military, and I wanted to do that. And right out of high school, had planned on joining the army. My mother begged me to try a year of college. I did a semester of community college to try and make her happy, but I
It, w-
left. I
it,
was
it wasn't for you, huh?
well, not then. I knew that later in life, I knew continuing my education was going to be very important. I wanted to go to Texas A&M, which I eventually did, and I just right out of high school, it was like I want to jump out of planes and blow stuff up and be a paratrooper, and that was my path
And
early on. So
if there's a time to really kind of like dive in and do all those like crazy ideas that maybe may not be supported by our parents at the time, it's during that age, right? It's like when you're 20, between like 20 and 30 years old, it's like go experiment, figure it out, you know?
I'm not saying everybody needs to do it, but there was nothing better for me to do than for me to join the army and go do that awesome stuff right at that 18, 19, 20-year-old age. It was
Yeah.
perfect for me.
So
So that's how that part started.
that's kind of around the same time that you met your ex-wife.
Yeah, actually we met right before 9/11. So I was a private in the 82nd Airborne Division when 9/11 happened, and we had just been talking on the internet back with dial-up.
How funny. Do, do, do,
Met in
do,
an
do.
AOL chat room.
You've got
Yeah,
mail.
it was no, that was exactly what it was like. I remember the first time, yeah, she sent me a picture. It like loaded like real slow. Like I get to see. I'm trying to wait for the whole picture to
What does
load
she
up.
look like?
Oh
Oh,
man, it
you
was
just took
it was wild.
you just took me back a couple of years.
Yeah.
That was
So
yeah, great memories.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was 2000, summer of 2001, and then shortly after 9/11, we got to meet in person. We had just been talking online up to that point. So yeah, um, I ended up doing 8 years on active duty. Had a deployment to Iraq. I served as an Army recruiter here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's when my ex-wife and I got married. And then after 8 years on active duty, I switched to the reserves, did some corporate time, worked on finishing my undergrad, served, ran a nonprofit for wounded disabled veterans, did lots of fun things, and have stayed in the reserves ever since until just this past year. So yeah, I've got 24 years in the Army.
And
Feels like yeah.
how do you feel that being in the military for so many years? I mean that it is a long time, right? 24 years in the military, even if you were in the reserves at the time. How do you feel that that shaped your life to where you are today?
Oh, it's had an amazing impact in feels like almost every way. It hasn't all been great. Some of it I uh probably would have rather had done without, but no, it, it, looking back at it now, I wouldn't change anything. I might have done a few things a little bit differently, but I still would have served, still would have stayed in. And I feel like in a lot of ways it has made me uh a lot of the best versions of a lot of the best the version of that I am of myself, I feel I never would have come to if it hadn't been for those
Sure.
experiences. So yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
very happy I did it.
How difficult was it to transition from, military to civilian life? Was that difficult?
I spent many years coaching, mentoring other veterans in their transition. I still do it a little bit, not so much today, but I used to do it a lot in my when I was running my nonprofit, because it is so much harder than any of us ever imagine. Like it doesn't matter whether you were a lance corporal or a lieutenant general. Like it is going to be way harder than you expect. And I've never had anybody tell me, no, it was actually pretty easy, or it was easier than I thought.
And,
Nope, every time.
why is that? Why do you think it is? Less structured life for civilian life as opposed to the military life? Like, what would it be so that me as a civilian
I
that's
don't think
never
it's
been
any
in
of
the
those things. I don't think it's any of those things that anybody would guess, like, structure or the any of those. I think it's identity. The biggest times in my life when I've had my whole world rocked is when I've lost my identity. And what I've noticed now as a coach, most of my clients, when they talk about the hardest times in their life, it's when they lost their identity. And a lot of times that comes back, that makes a full circle to what we're talking about now with being single, is some of us who have spent, decades with a partner, or always being with someone, we don't know who we are alone. And that's
right.
scary because it's
It is.
like you remember like the 90s movies where it's like uh the 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 girl who dates the football player, and then she doesn't know who she is without him. It's like she's always been so and so's girlfriend, and then she's so and so's wife, and now she's like, oh, I don't know. It happens to guys too, maybe in a different way, and in some ways maybe it's not as tied to the relationship as it is for women. Oftentimes it's more
Right.
with their job, with their role. Like in the military, you have a title, you have rank, people follow orders, that you give. Like there's so much tied around that. And for women, I think it's more commonly tied to the relationship that you're with. So both of those, when they change, can rock your identity and you don't know who you are, and things like that. And that is where the real struggle comes from. So I don't think it has much to do with routine, structure type things. Those things can be hard, but those can be much more easily overcome, in my opinion, than figuring out who you are once you've lost your identity.
And it's also right, like we're constantly in a pattern of change. Like that's like the one thing that we can be certain about. It's we're not going to be the same person that we were in our 20s, that we are in our 30s and our 40s. And also that is part of, those successful marriages that you see that they've lasted for 50, 60 years. And you have to ask those questions like, what is your secret sauce? And a lot of
Yeah.
it is communication and just kind of turning a blind eye to shit, right? Because you got to pick your battles also, because if not, you're going to be in constant war with each
You're
other.
totally triggering me right now. Uh, yeah, my ex-father-in-law, wonderful man, but he would tell me all the time when I was married to his daughter, you got to pick your battles, man. You got to pick your battles.
You got to pick your
And
battles,
he was giving me the best advice he knew how to give. And my ex-wife and I, as wonderful as a human being she is, we are so different in so many ways. And I feel like a lot of my struggles were because I didn't stand my ground in enough battles, but really we weren't compatible in so many ways that were really important to me. But we had all the basic ingredients, I think, for um, you know, not just creating, amazing children, but um, we had the main values that we thought were both most important for having a successful marriage. But yeah, there were little things, and just you bringing up that pick your battles. We were both kind of, I don't know if alpha is the right word, but we just butted heads so much on so many things. And her dad's advice was just, give in on certain things. And I'm like, man,
I
I don't,
can't.
I feel like I'm giving in too much.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so now I see her with her new husband. And I mean, I don't know the intricacies of their relationship, but they seem like such a fantastic couple. And
Like they click.
I feel like he's the type of guy that's like, I don't care about those things. Those are important to you, baby. If that's what makes you happy, cool. And so I feel like it's not that he's giving in and picking his battles better than I did. It's just there were things that I cared about so much more that just made it difficult. So yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't help but laugh with the pick your battles because
No, it's
that
so
was a
true
tough one for me.
because I know a couple of couples that have lasted many, many years, and one in particular, they were boyfriend and girlfriend in Cuba when they were like 15 years old. Okay. So he goes to
Hmm.
prison, political prisoner. She marries another guy because he didn't want to settle down also. He was like, soaking his wild oats with every lady in Cuba. She ends up telling him, hey, you need to calm down. I need a ring on it or I'm out. She was a gorgeous woman. He ends up telling her, I'm not ready to settle down. She
Hmm.
marries another amazing man. They have two children together, and years down the line, he dies of cancer and she stays
Mm.
widowed. But he never forgot about her, right? The ex-boyfriend. He married somebody
Sounds
else,
like a
had
Hallmark
children with
movie, minus the Cuba thing.
and it's real. I'm telling you. So the storylines come out of somewhere. They're out there. They might
Yeah.
be very minimal, but they're out there. And he looked her up after he heard that she was widowed and started chasing her. And they married later in life in their 40s. He and they're still together,
I
they're in their 80s now, and they're very, very much in love. So
love that.
I see those stories and I'm like, there is hope. So let me ask you,
Mhm.
Michael, what is like you mentioned earlier that there's certain things that are very important to you for a successful relationship. Can you kind of like dive in a little bit into what that is for a man like that's I mean, I would imagine that you do want to meet somebody and spend the rest of your life with somebody. As I think
Yeah.
most of
Yeah,
us
that would be my
do.
preference.
Yeah, as I believe most of us do. Nobody really wants to be alone. I will never believe anybody that tells me that they want to be alone for the rest of their life. They are lying. Nobody wants to be alone. So what would those
Even if they're lying to themselves, I think you're
yeah,
probably right. Yeah.
everybody wants just like a plus one, somebody that you can just bounce ideas from, share a nice dinner with, or just know that they're there, like with
Mm.
you, when I saw you on your social media, you're sick, you have a cold. Here, baby, let me bring you some, let me bring you your tea and your Advil. So what
Yeah.
would be those characteristics that you would look for in a woman?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. It's definitely changed over the years. Um, I mentioned whenever my ex-wife and I got together, it was faith was by far the most. I would even go as far as to call it religion. We were both Southern Baptists, and our faith and how important church was and how we wanted to raise a family and how we wanted to live a life was the things that I was most looking for in a partner, that she checked all the boxes. Also beautiful, and sweet, loving, caring, all the things. But those things were vital. I grew up with a mother who had to work to raise, three boys for a long season by herself. And she was this very strong, independent woman. But I remember what it was like coming home to an empty house after school and, getting up to no good, going hanging out with my friends, running around town, riding our bikes with,
Mm,
no supervision. And I had this vision of a partner who not just was going to be a stay-at-home wife for because I wanted one and that's what I thought my kids would want, but because that's what she wanted. And so we had that. That was really important to her. She had all these amazing qualities, very motherly, amazing cook, lots of those really fantastic things. When I was originally, I'm like, okay, she meets all of those things. She also drives me absolutely crazy. And then I remember talking to men in my life. They're like, well, that's just all women. So it's
I
like,
was
unless you
gonna
want to be
say,
gay, like you take that one. And
I
she
think that
does.
just
She meets
comes
all of
that
these.
yeah, that comes with the
Yeah.
package with
And so
us,
that was the advice that I got from them. What I never heard from them, I didn't know how important it was to for me, is I need a partner in adventure, somebody who matches my adventurous spirit for travel and doing fun things. And I think there's an amazing balance that you can have with somebody. Like, I've dated people that were very much planners, and we'll figure it out. And I think it's
Me too.
nice if you don't, if you're not too much of the extremes, but like if you let your partner who wants to have a little more of a plan more, and then also kind of like, all right, let's leave a little bit of room for some flexibility. I think that's an awesome example of where you can have you don't want somebody just like you, but you want somebody that matches it. And a struggle that I had with my ex-wife is she's very much a homebody, and in many ways, like, was riddled with anxiety that kept her from probably wanting to do the things she might otherwise have wanted to do. So that stuff was very difficult. So I felt like we were always at home, and the only things that we went and did were go out to eat or do things with our church group. And I told you I was a paratrooper. I jumped out of planes and shot machine guns and did stuff like I wanted adventure. And so now what I'm looking for, and this is why I brought this up, is very different than what I had in mind when I was in my 20s, considering, marriage then. Now that I've got, teenagers that, my daughter's about to get her driver's license. My son, has already graduated and has a job, a car, and a girlfriend. Like, um, what I'm looking for is very different. And so I want this ride or die partner. And if she is bringing kids, to the relationship as well, I feel like if they were too young, that would, you know, That
I
wouldn't
understand.
work.
Yeah.
If they were too old, I'm like, I'm not ready to be a grandpa yet. But where's that sweet spot that's pretty close to my kid's age where we get to have that season of life that I'm really looking forward to enjoying a lot. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but that's something that's important to me. And I think for most men to or anybody, not just men, but I'm speaking on behalf of men, I guess here, is to think about these are often different sides to the same coin. You know, somebody who is going to be that nurturing, caring, loving, supporting partner that you want
Right.
might not be as adventurous as you're looking forward to.
Right.
Maybe you need to have those needs met with your buddies.
Right.
And, that's, some give and take. So, um, I would then say that what's actually most important for each person is what I call irreducible minimums. I think a lot of people and some of my coaching clients do this. They're like, oh, well, somebody said make a list of all the things that I want for in a partner. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I like the idea of manifesting things and what is it that you're looking for.
I've tried that.
But
It
I
hasn't
would
worked for
actually,
me yet.
I like the opposite. I use the analogy. I don't bake. I don't really cook much of anything. But I like the analogy of what are the ingredients required to make a cake? And there's really only five of them, but you can get as creative as you want to make all these different types of cakes
Right.
with the extra ingredients. But the minute that you take out flour, it's no longer a cake, right? Like, okay, you need to have a few different things. And so what are the it feels weird to say bare minimum, but that's why I like irreducible minimums. What are the things that are vital that if this person doesn't have these things, these characteristics, these qualities, you don't even consider them? That's my recommendation. And for some people, it might be faith or religion. Maybe they need to have the same values, and whatever it is, whatever your things are. I feel like be open minded to all of these other things, except the few things that you have that you are not willing to compromise on. And I think you're more likely to be surprised what's out there and what might be a better fit for you. So
Well,
that's my two cents.
I do believe that there has to be, like you said, certain fundamental values that you share that are non-negotiables, right?
Hmm.
And my opinion, religion. Like where are
Hmm.
you spiritually in life? What are you looking for? What's your path? Because if we're too different, if you're an atheist and I'm a believer, we're clashing right there with that
Hmm.
belief, right? With everything
Right.
moving forward. Political views, I think, especially now more than ever with the way the country's running,
Hmm.
that also has to be very similar, or at least we have to have the same like goals
Hmm.
for what we're trying to see the country achieving. And
Yeah.
then finally, family. Do you want family? Do you want kids? Do you want grandkids? Like, where are you going with this? Because, I want to have 10 kids and I need to know if you're on board with that as well. So those are like the main
Yeah.
fundamental values that I think that if you can figure that part out and then it's just obviously having the chemistry and the connection and
Yeah,
all that
I
other
think if
fun
all
stuff.
of those things being equal, all the other stuff, the chemistry, the attraction, the, sexual chemistry and
Right.
energy, like all of those things being equal, I like your list. I would add for me health, and I put that in, the mental, physical, and emotional,
That's a good one.
spiritual,
That's a
all of
good
that
one.
health. Too many people I feel don't align on that, or one of them might get on a journey and the other one doesn't want to
You're
tag
right.
along.
Mm-hmm.
I had a girlfriend one time and she became vegan over the weekend after watching a
No.
thing. And I was like, I'm not okay with this. She's like, you don't support me. I'm like, no, actually, I do not. I'm not okay. I love food too much. I feel like
Yeah, that's my
the
happy
idea
place.
of sharing food, like, ooh, oh, I don't want the tomatoes on my salad, but you do. Like, that's okay. I love that. I
Yeah.
love split. Like, oh, I want this entree, you want that. Let's get
Let's
some.
share.
I love that.
Yeah,
And you
me
want to
too.
go and over a weekend, like, you know what? I watched this thing on Netflix, and I don't think I want to all of a sudden would be a vegan. I'm gonna make, and I'm like, no, I'm out. Like, I literally, we were in a relation. I was like, I let her know it was that big of a deal. And she got mad. She was like, you don't support me. I'm like, first of all, I feel like that is worth a conversation, not
Right.
just, but
Right.
hey, you do you, boo. I'm just
Right.
not here for that. So yes, that, your activity level, I used adventure as an example there, but I, I've been in relationships where I feel like I love their cooking and they're taking care of me and they're feeding me. And I'm just getting fat and lazy. And now we're watching Netflix more than working. I'm like, my physical health is really important to me. And I felt like I neglected it for far too long. And so I want somebody who, I'm not saying we need to be, that ridiculous couple that we see on like Instagram where the
David,
guy's
Dave,
doing pull-ups while she's like
yeah.
hanging on to him and giving him kisses and stuff. I mean, that's kind of neat. I said it's ridiculous, but I, whatever it is, I feel like that is really important to me that we match on food and health. Um, the growth mindset is so important. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I am trying to become the best version of myself. And if my partner isn't encouraging me in a way that helps me become the best version of myself,
Right.
then I feel like she's not that she might be the right one for me, and vice versa. If I'm not helping her in the same way, then I feel like maybe somebody else would be better, suited to be her partner. Or if she's just not interested in that, then that wouldn't be a good fit. So, yeah, health in all the different ways that you can measure health is very important to me. That growth mindset, and then career is something that I've noticed later in life. I have an ex-fiance. We got engaged right before COVID, and then during COVID, it fell apart. Also, another really wonderful person. She was very corporate, and I was wanting to lean into the entrepreneur side. I was leaving the nonprofit space and want to be an entrepreneur. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people who have two different corporate jobs, it's like they go live their own life for like 10 hours a day, you know, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. They have this different life. And then they come together in the evenings for dinner and they talk about this other life that you might not even know these other people, except that, the Christmas party that you get to go to, or the whatever. It's like they're living a different life and you're just talking about it over dinner. And that sounds to me like two people in the same river rowing separate boats towards the same destination, which sounds like retirement. Like one of these days, we're both going to be able to leave our jobs and have this retirement, and we'll be together. And or like they're just raising kids together. And then whenever the kids are gone, now they're like, "Who are you?" And you know what I'm talking about. But I feel like that analogy of they're rowing separate boats because of their careers, and they're trying to keep them from separating all this time, and maybe one gets a little further. I mean, you get the analogy, right?
I
To me,
understand. I understand what you're saying, and it's interesting because I'm thinking as you're talking. And so, what about like in the 50s and in the 60s, where, like you were saying, the stay-at-home mother that was cooking for her husband? It was the same dynamic, so to speak, right? He would come home from work. She didn't really know anybody, but he's coming in and he's talking to her.
sure. I'm not telling anybody else how they should pick theirs. Work. I'm all I'm doing is I'm sharing this example of what's important to me
No, no, I
for
understand.
my choice,
It got
because
me
you're spot
thinking.
on.
Yeah,
So for me, I want somebody who we're in the same boat,
right.
rowing down the river towards the same destination, and we have these complementary um, skills, talents, and abilities. For example, it's kind of silly, but have you ever seen like the billboard or the ad where it's like the husband and wife real estate team, like
Yeah,
both wearing like the same
with
kind of shirt? And it's like,
the
yeah, yeah, he might be the, back office guy and she might be
yeah.
the one showing houses, but they're building their, their, their thing together,
They're
right?
striving toward the
That's
same
important to
outcome.
me.
Right.
Yes. So I'm not saying people can't have amazing lives together, rowing separate boats down the same. They might even feel it that way. But for me, that is something
That's
where
something
I
that's
feel
important for
like,
you moving forward. Yeah, because I can also
yeah,
argue that where if you're a couple, I mean, you really, first of all, have to really get along. And working in the same company together where you have this vision, it's almost like Donald Trump and Ivana Trump, where they became business associates after a while and not husband and wife because the
yeah,
woman now is
no, great
so,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's you have to be very intuitive and very connected and have a lot of communication at that point with your partner. Where if you're feeling that the swag is kind of dying a little bit, it's like, how are we going to bring the spark back up again, right? And that's part of the evolution of being in long-term relationships.
Yeah.
So
And,
diving into
and
that,
and to be fair, I don't have the answers either. Like I haven't been in a super success, even though I was, married for almost 12 years. Like there was a lot of it where it wasn't, we weren't a good fit. So maybe I don't know anything about this. This is all just kind of what I'm
I
coming up with at the moment, but I
Michael,
feel like I'm onto something.
the one thing that I know now at 48 years old more than ever is that I know nothing. I know nothing. That is the older that I get, the more that I
Yeah.
read, the more that I communicate with different people, the more that I realize I know nothing. I know nothing, and I still have so much to learn and so many experiences
Mhm.
to learn with, you know. So then okay, so you meet a beautiful woman. You guys are, you know, sexually attracted to each other. She's gorgeous. You know, she's got all the check marks that you're looking for, right? What happens when she
Mhm.
comes in with a lot of baggage, right? Like you were saying earlier, if you found that perfect recipe of your list in a woman and she comes in and she has three little kids under the age of 10, is that a deal breaker for you at this stage in your life?
Under the age of 10, that would be a tough one. Um, I think there's a couple of things that no, I don't think it would be an automatic no.
Mm-hmm.
I think the things that would be automatic for me would be too far apart on religion, politics, type stuff.
Yeah.
Those would be it. The number of kids and their ages. I feel with the right partner that those things could be malleable, if you will. Uh, I don't know. I think that so no. The answer is no. It's not an automatic no.
It's not a
It's
deal
a
breaker.
let me see how
Yeah.
this would work.
Let me
Does
feel
it
it
make
out.
sense?
Let me feel it out.
And but I think there are other things that would balance that. So let's say she's corporate, but makes a good living, and she can totally take care of her own. You know, I buy my own drinks kind of thing, right? Doesn't need me, but enjoys me as a partner and feels that we would work well together. Now it's like that is something that I think would kind of tie in even more if that because I don't feel like we were meant to be alone. I feel like we're better as a team.
100%.
And are they looking for it? Because are they looking for a partner? Or are they looking for somebody to take some of the load off their
Right.
shoulders?
A
And I
sugar
see that both
daddy.
ways. There's a
A
lot of
sugar
things,
daddy.
you know, that it is funny, but not even that. I feel like in some ways I share on that same post that you were referencing earlier about
Yeah,
what's the hardest part about being single. It's got over 2,000 comments now,
really.
and a lot of them are to kind of deal with the loneliness, but they use examples of doing things alone of women I'm referring to of the things that they want a man to be able to just take care of. And part of me, the lower level version of myself, is like, oh, well, you hire a handyman. You just described a plumber, a handyman, a carpenter to like, you know, somebody take out the trash, and I'm just like, outsource that. But I don't think that's really the way they meant it. I think it's
No, it's
they want
just,
somebody to just to take care of those things so that they don't have to worry because there's so many things that I don't want to take care of that stress me out that the right partner with the right feminine energy it's like oh baby that's easy. I will gladly take that off of your plate and deal with that if you go take care of
and
these
deal with
others
that.
and I love that. I love the partnership that comes from the people who have different skills and preferences and like I don't want somebody who's just like me. I want somebody who
Right.
complements me
Yeah.
and we want to add value to one another.
I think
So
you're hitting a key point there as well, is what I've encountered, you know, with just first of all, and this is the next question that I want to talk to you about dating apps and meeting people through social media. That could do a podcast on that all day long, just about that. Um, But the one thing that, you know, women nowadays are, you know, working more, right? Corporate jobs, like you said, they are the ones that are single mothers running the household. And that, as much as you want to try and fight it, there's a masculine energy that you have to bring to the table in order to be able to continue to achieve that type of lifestyle where you're paying the bills, you're running the house, you still have to cook dinner, you're taking care of the kids, and it's a lot. And you end up turning into almost like a man, even though you still physically look like a woman. And then what's happening, in my observation and in speaking with other women, is that a lot of the men want to be the ones where I call you and I ask you out on a date and let's go 50-50 on the bill when when we go out to dinner. And it's like, what happened to that masculine and feminine connection that's supposed to take place? Are we switching roles at this point?
Tell me what you think.
uh, I'm telling you, it's been, I got on the dating. I've been on the dating apps on and off through a girlfriend of mine was like, give it a chance. It might be good for
Well,
you,
hold on. Just stick with that thought process, if you
No,
don't mind. That
but
are we changing roles here?
but the
You,
dating
you think
apps is
that's what's happening?
the dating apps. It's what's why I'm bringing up this question
Oh,
because
okay.
when I got on the dating app, and I don't know, maybe I'm not vetting correctly, right? Maybe I need to take a course with you, which we're going to get into all the services that you offer and your new, coaching that you're going to bring to single women like me. That trust me, we want to know how you guys think. But what I've encountered is exactly what I'm saying to you. A lot of the guy, I had a guy ask me for $1,000 at one point. He was completely
Mhm.
lying about he got out of a divorce. Yeah, I did my due diligence. You know that we're borderline FBI agents, in the background when we start
Mhm.
dating you. We know everything about you and we have to pretend really surprised when we're asking you questions because we already know the answers. He had a house, he had a nice car. He paid a couple of times when we went out to dinner. And then later on, I found out he got a sweet settlement from his divorce.
Oh,
was was
okay.
was a complete catastrophe financially. Owed money to everybody and their mother, no credit, and
Mhm.
and got kicked out of the house because he couldn't afford to pay for it anymore, and he had to move into somebody's room. And that's where I was.
Wow.
And but I always knew it. There's an intuitive nature that women have, and that comes from us having children and being mothers where when you know what I mean? It's like there was just something about him. He was handsome. Um, I took him around my friends and I was like, hey, give me some feedback. What do you guys think about him?
Yeah.
I've been out of the game for a minute. Everybody was like, we like him, Monica. And I'm like, there's something off with his finances that I can't put my finger on. He was a
Yeah.
fishing boat captain. I was like, what the hell does a fishing boat captain do? That was strike number one. What the hell does a
Now,
fishing boat captain do?
there's lots to unpack there. All right, so let's go back to your original question. You want me to answer that and tie it into the dating. So, are we changing roles? I feel in many ways, yes. Some of it for good reason, some of it for bad reason. I think the good guys out there are now very apprehensive because the guys that get most of the attention are the dirt bags. I won't use other phrases for them that I think we've all heard, but yeah, um there are a lot of there's this guy that shares this page on social. I think he calls it hoflation, and he
That's funny.
and the idea is that if you were to rank men and women on a scale of 1 to 10, however we see that as individuals, it's if you're a 6 or a 7, like if you're a 6, you want the 7, 8s, 9s, and vice versa. But it's like we neglect the ones, like we're not as honest with ourselves about the people that we would be most compatible with. But his idea there is that if we look at the attention that both get for the 8s, 9s, and 10s, so the men, there's really about 10% of the men that are getting 90% of the attention.
I read that.
And right. And then and vice versa, but it's a little bit different how it goes this way. But there are like a lot of guys are just don't want to put in the effort anymore. And then the ones that are burned from terrible divorces where they get half their stuff taken and they don't get to see their kids.
That's
And
huge
not
also.
that
Yeah.
those are, I mean, I know every situation is a little bit different, but being very general now, there are a lot of guys out there that are like, why would I risk all of this stuff for another relationship? So and both sides absolutely get burnt, and then they have their own trauma that they're carrying. But regardless of that, what I'm noticing is the attention that people get really skew this whole thing. And I think that's one of the big struggles is guys have stopped putting in the effort, and now women have to try harder, but the guys that they're going after are getting so much attention that now they've become like the women that guys complain about because their DMs are full and they've got all of these options, and now they get weird. I know, because it's like, I won't get too far into that.
No,
But point is about the masculine energy.
I could imagine where you're
I
going
I
with
do
that.
very little pursuing, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And but I want to pursue, but I do a lot of networking. I'm, in professional settings. And so I always err on the side of maybe they're not interested in all. I'm just being 100% professional. But then I also try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're just being friendly and kind and don't want everybody to hit on them. But then you don't know, and you don't want to be the guy that they're talking about to their friends about this
The
creepy
creepy
dude.
guy. The creepy guy.
Yes. And
Yes,
so the good
absolutely.
guys don't want to come across as creepy either. So anyway, it creates a weird, very weird dynamic. But the part about the masculine and the feminine energy is, I believe now, whether you like it or not, women are going to need to, I call it, drop more handkerchiefs. That's like the
Old
old
school,
style of like,
right?
just let
Like,
old school,
hey, thank you,
find
sir.
your way to drop a handkerchief to the guys that you're interested in, because they're probably not going to pursue. And they've also probably been, shit on for the pursuit. And then they're scared. They don't know how to do it. They're out of practice, all of these things. And there are really, really great guys out there that you might have to let them know a little bit more, that you're interested, and how to go about it. So is it unfortunate? Yeah, maybe it's the world we live in. If more guys want to sign up for my coaching, I'd happy to tell them how to do some of this and overcome it. But I feel like, most of them are not ready to hear that. I think it's the women that will benefit most from the understanding of, here's how you drop a handkerchief to the guy, and then also pursuing the right guys and how to do it in a way that you're no longer attracting the assholes or the
I
guys that, are,
that would
yeah, that's,
that would be really valuable information. If I can hear that from you, and I follow a couple of coaches, on social media where they focus just on dating and helping women. And when the main ingredient is like, we don't understand you. We don't get the way you guys think. We think we do, but we don't. Like you
I don't even think
guys,
you understand yourselves, if you'll
you
be really honest.
you guys are weird. Okay.
I
Um,
mean, and I mean that playfully. I
no,
think
me
a lot
too.
of
And I'm
women
playing
think
with
they know
you.
what they want.
Yeah.
They think they know what they want. They tell you what they want, but they
Hmm.
respond to something very different.
Right, right.
And
And
that's where guys really, oh, like, you tell me this is what you want, but it doesn't work out well for me when I do that.
right.
That's what's wild.
The important, I think, secret sauce in the beginning is the vetting process and really kind of how do I give this guy a chance? Do we go out to dinner? What are the questions to ask? What are the red flags that we should be looking out for in the very beginning where we can say like, okay, you've been divorced 3 times. That's kind of a strike there
Yeah.
already. Like, what's going on? What's the inconsistency that you have with marriage? How much money in alimony do
Yeah.
you
The
pay
apps
your
are tough.
ex-wife? Yeah. No, it's horrible. It's horrible. I hate them. I
Well,
really do.
well, I don't. I have a lot of luck on them. Actually, I have.
Because you're
So,
probably that guy, that 10% that's getting all the
well,
DMs.
yes. And there are things that I have on my profile that I share that I think really kind of make me look like a unicorn, not just because I'm, 6'1" with blue eyes and a majestic beard. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, there's things that I write in there that I think really set me apart. And the thing on one of them, I think on Hinge, the very last one, picture is a collage of my social media. So you talked about y'all being FBI. I have a screenshot
Open it up.
that
Yeah, you're
has
you're throwing it out
my,
there.
yeah, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my TikTok, my Facebook, all of them. Full name, Michael P. Nash. This is how you find, like,
You're not
and
hiding
I,
anything.
yep. And I think that has definitely made a significant difference on how many are like, oh, this guy isn't, I don't have to worry about him being catfished. I can go, look at his posts, see how he think, like, and I think that adds to a lot of the likes and the matches, because I'm being that vulnerable. I'm putting myself out there, but also that's my desire to help the women feel safe and want them to make sure that if they also, it's just like I got really sick of the how was your day stuff for a week before we figure out if
The
you want to
texting, the
go out.
texting, the
So I'm
500
like,
texts.
look, I'm busy. I'm running a business. I got a lot of things going on. I like to have fun and do things. Here's all of my, like, do your own due diligence. If you really want to see if we vibe, let me know. So now it's like, okay,
You're
I'm
throwing the
putting it
ball.
out
You're
there.
you're you're throwing the ball to her court.
You drop the handkerchief by saying, hey, I really like all this, And so I say, what is it that you need to know about me in order for you to feel comfortable enough for us to move this to a coffee date? That's my energy that I'm putting out there. And I would say I almost just kind of stopped. Like I'm probably just going to turn it off for the new year. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I felt like I've got a bunch of matches, a bunch of interest, and most of these just haven't gone anywhere.
Hmm.
And maybe it's what's going on in my life. Maybe I just really focusing on my business but the main thing, and I shared this, another interview recently, I'm looking for queen energy.
Hmm.
And if I'm not picking up queen energy off your profile, eh. So
I'm
we
out.
talked about, do you match on all these other things? No, no. You've got 6 or 7 pictures and a little bit of stuff in there to tell me, are you giving me queen vibes or not?
I like
And
that.
if you are, and everything else matches, because here's the thing, there's a lot of princess vibes. I'm not
Right.
looking for a princess,
And that's also what's out
right?
there from the male's perspective that I hear also, right? Because listen, I get it. Like I'm listening to both sides of the stories. I'm open-minded, or at least I try to be. And women are also just looking for a sugar daddy or baby pay my bills. And they're looking, they have that princess energy where it's
I think it's those
also,
two extremes. I
yeah.
think it's that, or I don't need you. I just kind of want you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, for me, both of those are turning me off.
Right.
I don't want either extreme. So I like a strong, independent woman who, you know, education is not as important as I might have rated it before, but are you bringing this awesome energy that helps make me better? Are you amazing with people? Like, so I don't care. It's nice if you have it and it's adds value in other ways. Um, but it's not as big of a deal. But I want a partner that's a queen. So if you work a corporate job, fine. But
Right.
are you also interested in like maybe doing a little side hustle that kind of ties into something else? Because I don't want to do so well in my world to where I'm like, how many PTO days do you have? Like we have to schedule this around. Like, no, I want to build a life that's very, very different. So it wasn't the whole point of that, but the where I was going with that idea is if I pick up somebody who wants me to just take care of them, no. But if it's take care of each other, if you're doing well on your own and I'm doing well on my own, I think we can do even better together.
Yeah.
Now we're building a kingdom. Now we've got something that is really, really great. So
I, I,
that's
I,
why I feel like on the dating apps, I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna probably put that on the back burner.
I did read that recently where, what is the definition of like that perfect relationship? And it's exactly what you just said. It's
Really?
me being who I am and wanting to be the best version of what I know that I can become, expecting the same from you on your end with what it is that you're looking for, and then we're complementing each other where you're pushing me to become that better
Yeah.
person because you see it
Yeah.
in me and you love me that much and I love you that much that I want the same for you, and that's how we really combine and grow together as a couple.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, that's really hard to find, but it's out there. It's
Well,
out
I
there.
think too many people are looking for a partner because they're lonely and they don't feel complete.
You
But
have to
they
be
think,
complete within yourself first
yeah, they
before you
they
can.
think somebody else is going to complete them. The whole you complete me thing. No, no. I I I want somebody who's okay being alone, good being alone,
Yeah.
but knows that we're not meant to be alone and we can do better when we find our partner because that's the way that I feel. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's really, really big deal.
So I love all this male perspective, love information that you're sharing with those vulnerable women out there that are lost and really trying to understand, the way that men think. So let's get into the services that you do provide and how
Okay.
you are out there and you will help us. And I am the first one that's going to join your team. So talk to me. How did you get started with coaching?
That's a that's a very well, how did I get started with coaching? Whenever I was running the nonprofit for wounded and disabled veterans, a lot of what I was doing was mentoring these veterans in transition. I thought I was coaching. I thought coaching was giving people good advice. Oh, here's what you need to do to fix your life. That's not coaching. So I thought I was definitely mentoring. I was helping. I was making a difference. But when I really learned what coaching was, I was like, oh, it's very, very different than I thought it was. I got very excited about it. I actually learned about it from a therapist from the VA. I had taken some group therapy classes from the VA, and then I did some one-on-one with this guy, and he was awesome. And then he tried to fire me. Like he's like, "You're good, bro." Like I'm
Ah,
like, "Wait, what do you mean?" No, no, I love this conversations. I love what we're talking about. He's like, "Look, I'm here to diagnose and treat, mental illness and, things that are like a little more acute. And then you move on." He's like, "You're good." He's like, "You need a coach, not a therapist." And I'm like, this is 8 years ago, probably. I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean? What's a coach?" And he explained what a coach does. And I was like, "Oh, that's different." He's like, "There's some overlap. Sure." Uh, so then I started working with some, learned about some. I thought it was weird, especially 8 years ago. I'm like, life coaching? That seems
yeah,
silly.
it
Why
wasn't as
people got to pay
prominent
for that?
as it is today, right?
Yeah. And so I didn't like it. It had a stigma even around me. But in the nonprofit work that I was doing, I started implementing a lot of those things. And I have a lot of great books up here about how to coach differently, different techniques and methods. And it worked. So I was doing it with veterans, and they weren't paying for it. This was through a nonprofit. I ran the nonprofit, and then a lot of the energy that I put was in that. So I honed my skills for years, helping veterans overcome their struggles with post-traumatic stress and focus on the future and helping them, become more self-aware, all of these really great things. And then fast forward, and I ended up getting an executive coaching certification. That's this one down here for how to work with leaders in corporate, spend some time in corporate. Anyway, a few years ago, when I was at Texas A&M getting my MBA, my capstone project was going to be a coaching business. And so I spent a lot of energy taking all the things that I learned for 2 years in this MBA program to build a coaching business as my capstone project. And at the last minute, I got scared, I guess. And I was like, no, I think I'm going to do more consulting than coaching. I got an MBA. That's really what it's for. I'm going to help these business owners. And so I created a business for consulting and coaching for entrepreneurs. And then it turned to be more detailed for entrepreneurs with ADHD.
That's so interesting. Yeah, when I read that, I was like, okay, this is a conversation.
Yeah. But what I've noticed over the last 2 years, almost every consulting client that I have, because I'm working with small businesses, usually 7 and 8 figure businesses, nothing real huge like big consulting firms do. So I'm not working with giant division. I'm working with the owner. And what I've noticed in almost every case, the owner thinks they have a problem that they need help with consulting, but really it's a coaching solution to solve their problem. It's mindset, it's a limiting belief, it's how they feel, think, and are emotionally connected to things that they didn't realize were preventing them from reaching the next level of success. Because there's so much information out there that they could get access to. And
Right.
I do add a lot of help as a consultant, but I've noticed it keeps going towards coaching. And maybe that's because I love coaching and I feel like it's the most impactful. But now I have enough evidence to realize, I was a consultant who also coached. Now I am a coach who also consults. I'm leading with the coaching. So that's how that's happened in the last year. And then there was another shift. So this past summer, I hit 5,000 Facebook friends. I don't know if this happens to you, but now it's like I couldn't accept new
Yeah.
notification or new requests until I deleted some. And so I got on there, and it showed me when I was trying to delete people who I, didn't engage with or didn't engage with me. It showed me that my audience was 75% female,
Hmm.
great, a little greater than 75%. And on other places, it was over 80. And I really looked back at my engagement for all of my posts, and I had all the data, and I can nerd out on data, but I would post stuff about consulting, about business, about finance, and it was crickets. But I'd throw a little
Hmm.
thirst trap gym selfie up there, and I'd ask women their opinion,
Yep.
and it would blow up. And of course, it makes you feel good, but I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. But I looked at the data, and I'm like, that's my audience. That's who's engaging with
Right.
me. And so I really thought about how can I help them? What value can I bring to them? And I'm like, I don't want to be a coach for women or women entrepreneurs,
Why not?
but those are the ones. It was my own limiting belief. I've seen women coaches that coach men, and I
Yeah.
had my own opinion about them and what I thought of them, and it was rude. And now I think I've gotten a lot better and less judgmental about it. But I cared a lot about what other people thought, and it's something I'm still working through myself. But what I
We all do.
realized
We all
is
do.
the stuff that I'm helping is not unique to women, to entrepreneurs, to men. It's the inner work. And so that's why I was like, I'm going to be an inner work coach where, regardless of whether we're talking about a relationship or other things, in some cases, even your business, it's really about what we were talking about before, about you becoming the best version of yourself and being happy and content with who you are as an individual before you add a partner. That's really what it's all about. And that's what got me very excited about what I was doing. And I'm like, well, I think I'm just going to straight up just lead with this coaching thing. And I shared a little bit with you before. That's where I went to TikTok. I didn't have a following really there. I had like 500 followers, and I just went there to make content, make the videos because I thought the tools were easier. And then I'd share them on Facebook or Instagram. Right.
That's what I do.
And I was like, I'm going to put myself out there on TikTok and I'm going to see
That
what
that
happens
takes a lot of
because I was
courage too.
afraid.
Yeah, that takes a lot of courage.
Well, thank you. But I also did it there because I was afraid to do it on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn.
Like an
So I'm
older
like, let me go to
audience, you're
TikTok
thinking?
where there's only, well, it was no, it was a smaller audience. It was 500 followers, and most of them I didn't really know. So I was like, let me give this a try. And the very first video I did with that energy, where I just put myself out there, in one day, it had 40,000 views and
Amazing.
I added 2,000 followers in one day from one video. And I was like, I felt like that was the universe or God or the Holy Spirit or whatever talking to me,
Talking
like,
to you.
okay,
Yeah, you
I,
wanted your answer. This is
I,
it.
and it's, I mean, and we hear those stories, like even in the Bible where it talks about, show me a sign here. And I was just like, let me try this over here where it's probably going to fail. I've got 5,000 followers on Facebook. I've got 500 on TikTok. Let me try this on TikTok. Oh, here's 50,000 views and 2,000 more followers. And I was like, oh man. So I started leaning into it a little more and I started having some more success. And I was trying to recreate lightning in a bottle, which is a bad idea. And then it's like, let me just put myself out there, put
Be
myself out
you.
there.
Be you.
And I
Bring out
started
that
having
authenticity.
some
Yeah.
other, yeah, and having a little more success, having fun, gained two coaching clients that were women and not entrepreneurs from that effort. Wasn't
Okay.
even asking. I just put on there that I'm a coach, and people jumped in my DMs. Hey, I'm interested in your coaching. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I didn't even try, and it made me money, and
Hmm.
it gained me followers. And I'm like, okay, I'm onto something here. And then a month ago, when I got sick, I made that video. I think as of today, I think it's cracked 50,000. It
It was
jumped to
cute.
30 real fast.
It was really cute. Like
And
I almost wanted to tell you in the video, like, toughen up, bad boy. Come on, you could do it.
I just I didn't
But
even
it,
feel like it was anywhere near my best. I felt like I took too long to get to the point. Yeah, it is now over 50,000 views and 2,000 comments on that one. But it was, what's the worst part about being single?
yeah.
And I'm like, all right, there it is. So now I said all of that to answer your question. So moving forward, I'm going to do group coaching
Hmm.
and I'm going to have different audiences for different groups. But I'm going to start. One of the things we do in business is the minimum viable product. My MVP will be group coaching for single women, and we're going to focus on not how to get a man, but to work on
On yourself.
the do the inner work,
Hmm.
and then also help them understand what is it that the men they're likely most attracted to, what are they likely thinking.
Right.
So if my vibe is something that they're attracted to, then all right, I will tell you my actual feedback about things that you're doing. And even in the groups, like put up your Bumble profile, and I'll tell you what I think. I'm like, oh, this, that, and the other. I think you're actually attracting the wrong type of person that you told me you
Right.
want based
And
upon
that
this information.
that's what I'm telling
Would
you.
that be
Like
valuable?
That would be so valuable because what I'm thinking
Yeah.
that, oh, he's going to want to see me in not that I do that, but in a tight dress. Like there's a lot of thirst trap pictures, right? That women post where like their boobs are hanging out and the tight booty. And I don't know. I think that that brings out the wrong vibe also to a guy. A guy is going to notice if you're pretty, if you're dressed up elegantly. You don't have to be naked, you know?
You don't
And
have to be naked. We do want to know there are plenty that hide the figure with angles and lighting and
yes.
type stuff. And I'm like, no, no, we definitely want a full figure photo. We want to know. We
Yeah.
don't want to be surprised. I've been surprised a couple of times. We want to see an action photo, like you out and about having fun with your friends. That's really important. If they're all like car selfies, like drivers, like that's terrible. If they're all bathroom selfies, that's terrible.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the type of feedback I want to be able to help women be like, okay, if you're just lonely and looking for a date, this will work.
So
But
what
you're not
about
you're
like
not you're
what
not
about
hunting for kings here.
what about like bio profiles? Like what are some key takeaways that you can tell us right now that we can write in our
Oh,
Hinge profile, for example, that will get your attention that you're like, okay, all right, let me see what this
I'll tell
girl's
you what
about.
not to write. Let me start
Okay.
with that one.
All right.
There are so many things that I see that are cluing me in to your unhealed trauma. And I see it on a lot where they're like, I'm just looking for an honest man who da, da, da. I'm like, okay, so do you think all the guys who are like, okay, so she was with a lion POS before who wasn't honest, or it's I just want somebody who's actually single. Like, oh, okay, so you've
Hmm.
been catfished by married, you know what I mean? There's so much like that. Oh, that is, it attracts douchebags because now they know how to manipulate you,
They got a
and it
radar,
and it
right?
uh it deters the good guys. So that is automatic. So
Okay, that's interesting.
if I see that, definite not interested for me. But it also lets me know if I saw a woman that I was coaching her and she had a lot of that stuff on there and be like, you probably don't need to be on the dating
Yes.
site.
Right.
This is something
You
you
got
should
some work
work
to
with.
do. You got some work to do.
Yeah. And maybe it's
Yeah.
a therapist, maybe it's a coach, maybe it's both, maybe it's going through the inner work book and doing it on your own. But you've got some healing that needs to take place because your bitterness, perhaps I'm making an assumption there, maybe it's something else,
Right.
but maybe there's some anger,
Trauma,
some
whatever. Yeah.
bitterness, something. It's that phrase, when you're not healed, you'll bleed on the people who didn't cut you type
Yes.
thing.
So
You could meet
true.
somebody really amazing and you'll end up ruining it. This goes for men just as much. I'm not saying this is a woman thing. But yes, that is some definite feedback. Is it's easy to see when people are carrying unhealed trauma that I don't want anything to do with. um, on the flip side, that's a good conversation for me to have with somebody if I'm getting kind of serious, is to know what have you learned from your previous relationships
Hmm.
that, because one of the things I talk about, it's like one of the prompts I think on Hinge is, what do you find most attractive in a partner? And my number one is self-awareness. That gets a lot of compliments too. It's like self-awareness. And then I add a lot of other things that I'm actually really attracted to. But if you lack self-awareness, just get that off of me.
And that's another
So
thing also that I've encountered. And it could be me projecting myself also and not fully being healed before I even like tested out the waters. That a lot
mhm,
of the people that are on the dating apps, especially right now around the holidays, like they're just lonely.
mhm.
They're completely unhealed. They have all this trauma. So you're just jumping into to this house that's completely on fire and you're going to get burnt, so you need to be able to. We don't have the vetting process now where you introduce me to your buddy and I could be like, hey Michael, what's up with this guy? Okay, why did he get a divorce from his ex-wife? Was he a douchebag? Or no, Monica, he's a nice guy. It just didn't work out. They started when they were 20. We don't have that comparison where we can come back and kind of like get
Yeah,
a back end story. So you really can get a lot of people catfishing, trying to
yeah,
like just take advantage of a vulnerable person at that point that is lonely and is just really looking for affection. So let's get into this part before we end the podcast.
yeah. Hit me
It's
with it.
it's the holidays. Christmas just happened, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's going to be New Year's, New Year, new me, like all that fun stuff that we all say to ourselves. But this time of the year, for a lot of people that are by themselves and have gone through breakups, are seeing on social media all the family members and, their buddies with their wife and their kids, and they're skiing in Aspen, and you're by yourself. And that could bring on another level of depression with that loneliness that you're carrying inside during the holidays. What advice can you share with a woman or a man for that matter that is kind of feeling that right now? And it happened to me not too long ago. I was like, why am I feeling so blue today? And I think it was that I was just scrolling on social media and I was like, my friend's in Canada, my other one's traveling, and I'm like, man, my life sucks right now. And it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
just,
we're
I,
seeing the highlights of everybody
right,
else's life, which
right.
is, that's a glimpse. So
Yeah,
it's not real. I
right.
advice. I feel like the advice that I would give to each person would be a little bespoke, a little custom for each one, depending on their needs. But if I was going to be super generic, uh, get out of your house, get off of social media, and
Hmm.
find those things that are fun for you. I would start absolutely with your physical health, your
Yeah.
physical,
Walk,
mental,
work
emotional
out.
health.
Yeah.
Get some sunshine, move your body, eat good food. I feel like that is, and what better time than the new year? But don't set these great New Year's resolutions. I feel are ridiculous. Set baby steps for building new habits. So maybe the first book, if you didn't read a lot of books last year,
Start
I
reading.
would I would make some good recommendations to each person, depending on if I spend a few minutes with them. I'm like, hey, your first book should be Atomic Habits. You should learn how to stack these little habits each week on top of these other ones, and don't try to have this new you with completely new routine,
Right. You're gonna fail.
in the
You're gonna
first week of
fail. Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
But hey, this week I'm going to do this. And then if you can't do it, 5 or 6 days a week, then that's you go into the next week. And once you've got that 5, 6 days a week or 7, now you stack a new habit. That would be an example of working on building the new you, and make this year that you maybe wanted love. Like, no, date yourself, like that self
Yeah.
love, work on yourself,
Take
you
yourself
know,
out to dinner, right? Take yourself out to the gym. Yeah. Yeah. Fall in love with yourself
whatever it
again.
is. Yeah. And there's something that happens because a lot of times if you don't feel good in your own skin, now you're just, you know what? Let me back up. You said something earlier, and I feel like it's very important to bring it back here. Um, I am in no way saying that you need to be fully healed before you get in a relationship. There is so much good that happens when you're with somebody, and they can be as long as they're a healthy person. If they're toxic, this is bad advice. But if you're with a good person,
Hmm.
there's a certain level of, let's make sure I'm not toxic. I'm in a good enough place, but don't delay something awesome. Take your time, but use that in a way where they reflect back to you things that example of they help make you an even better version of
Right.
yourself.
Where they're gonna help you.
That could be awesome.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I
so I'm not
agree.
saying, don't date in 2025. What I'm saying is if you're unhealthy, work on that first. Make sure you're not making somebody else worse or yourself worse by partnering up. But then, either way, start working on yourself and get to where you feel good in your own skin, where maybe you haven't reached all your goals, but are you trending in the right direction
Right. Are
for
you
two
at
or
least
three
working
months?
toward it?
Have
Yeah.
you built some new habits? Because once you start seeing some results, it's amazing how that flywheel starts going and you
Hmm.
start feeling good about everything else. And then this has happened to me. It's happening to me now in a way, but those times in my life where when I focused on me, I got a little selfish in like a good way.
Yes, it
I'm taking
happens.
care of myself, and that energy starts showing up. You got your shoulders back, you're smiling
You're almost
big,
like cocky at that point, like, yeah, I'm back. The lion's
and
back.
there's this magnetism, this energy that you start,
Projecting.
and people start showing up.
Yeah.
So if you're not
100%.
attracting the type of people that you're most interested in, work on yourself.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Great
Work on
advice.
yourself. I mean, I had it happen today, but right before we jumped on, I got a DM from somebody who, we went on some dates a while back, and they circled back,
Yeah.
and it was a compliment of like, hey, I really enjoy all the stuff. I've been, I'm not on social media much, but I've noticed some of the things you've been sharing and I'm really digging
Yeah.
it. Maybe we should. And I'm like, what's up? No, not the cocky
Oh,
way,
you
but,
did.
but really, I'm like,
It's a great feeling. It's a
that's,
great feeling because
that's like a thermometer for me to, hey, am I,
I'm on
am
the
I
right
bringing the
track.
energy that
I'm
I
on the right
want? And
track.
that is awesome. And yeah, so that's a really cool feeling. So I've noticed that at different times in my life when more people are showing up, whether it be DMs or just, looks from across or whatever it is, when you start working on yourself and bringing that energy, it's really, really awesome. And that would be my advice to anybody going into this new year is define for yourself, not so much what you're looking for in a partner. How can you become the best version of yourself? What do you want to change? And make that your ultimate priority. And it'll be awesome
Yeah.
what starts showing up in your life when you start putting those good energies out there.
I love it. I love all the advice that you've given us here today on this episode. Um, this is great. This is great. Like I'm processing everything as we're talking. Because God knows, I sure as hell understand that I am also a constant work in progress, and I can elevate, like you said, like you start elevating and you see it, and I'm seeing it also through this podcast. I'm getting more confident with, when I speak to different people.
Yeah.
I'm contacting more people, and I'm getting a lot of feedback on the comments. I'm getting a lot of emails from people that just want to talk to me right now and share their stories. So that also talks to me like maybe it's the universe, right? Like, hey, you're on the right path, Monica. Keep going, right? It's about
Yeah.
helping others, right? That's what we're here for, serving others. I believe that from the bottom of my heart. So how can people reach you, Michael? People that right now are like, okay, this guy sounds like somebody that can help me.
Yeah, I'm so easy to find because of my unique name. So most people call me Mike. I've always introduced myself as Mike Nash, but recent after my MBA graduation, I started writing Michael P. Nash on
Hmm.
everything. So I feel kind of like Jordan B. Peterson,
I like it. I like it.
Samuel L. Jackson, Michael J.
Yeah,
Fox, something.
I feel it.
Um, but that's made it really easy. So I've changed all of my social to Michael P. Nash. So even if you don't spell my last name right, by the time you get Michael P. I'm probably going
Okay.
to pop up. So if you're on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm on all the things. I feel like the majority. Hopefully, TikTok doesn't go away in a few weeks.
I know, right? We
A
shall
little
see.
nervous about that,
We
but
shall
I feel
see.
like that's where I'm going to put a lot of the majority of my energy in this space. And so right now on LinkedIn, I'm still, leaning towards consultant. That's like my B2B page, but that's probably going to change here soon too. So yeah, wherever they're at, come and find me. And if somebody is interested in individual coaching, they can DM me. If they're interested in group coaching, that'll be coming probably late January. I got a list of people who are already on a wait list that want to be in the group. So they could probably jump on real easily and get the lowest price it'll ever be because
I
while
like
I'm
that.
working out all the details.
all
But
the
yeah,
all
I'm
the
I'm pretty
kinks
easy
with
to find.
everything. Well, I'll be
Yeah.
adding all of your social media links with your name on the comment section of the YouTube channel, so that anybody that's listening and resonating with your message or needs some help, whether it's coaching or with love and a little bit of guidance and you helping them with their Hinge profile, they can reach out to you. But I really appreciate you taking a little bit of your Sunday
Monica, it
afternoon
was a
to
lot of
speak
fun. I
with
really
me.
enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You've helped me
And
a lot
thank you
today.
for jumping in my DMs and asking me.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right.
so I'm like, okay, this is a good one. This is a good one. She wants to hear about, I think more people need to follow your lead and be like, hey, let me just put myself out there, and not so much in the dating thing in this example,
Yeah.
but it's like, let me
Hmm.
just I bet there's good people out there that are going to want to connect and share and learn. So yeah, this is great. They should follow you.
One thing that this podcast journey, and it started for me with a little bit of a depression that I was in, and I did it kind of like joking around through dating apps with girlfriends. We were talking about all the Hinge profiles of guys.
Yeah,
And it was a fun thing, I was just like, okay, let's give this a try. And it's evolved into more of a mental health type of podcast. But one thing that this has taught me is as it's growing and the deeper conversations that I get to with different guests that I speak to, people want to share their stories. They want to share their experiences and they want to be able to help you because it's also helping them getting that message out to others. that's what this has taught me, that we just, by nature, we just want to help other people. And if it's as simple as just sharing a story of that you hit rock bottom and now you're feeling a lot better mentally and you did it by doing this process, let me share it with somebody else that might be on the midst of, I don't know, committing suicide. I mean, I've had those podcasts as well. So
Yeah.
it's an important platform, I think, that is available now, and people like you and I that are willing to do the work and share the stories. I think that we're offering really good knowledge out there for
Mhm.
some that need to listen to the message. So thanks again, Michael. I really appreciate you talking to me today. Like I said, I'll share everything on there. And please, everyone, please consider subscribing to the Bear Experiment podcast in YouTube. Hit your notification button so that you can never miss one of these amazing episodes where we're bringing you real value with real stories of authentic, raw, unfiltered stories. And like and share this episode with a girlfriend that may need some help with their Hinge profile, and Michael's here to help.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you so
Michael.
much, Monica.
Have a great one, honey. Okay, take care.
You too.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.